I quit my job. And so that's something that you probably heard so many times throughout these past few years, especially with everything that's going on with the world and the whole great resignation. Now, the one thing that I see a lot of people are talking about is this whole idea of quit your job without a plan. So today I'm going to be talking about that because I've definitely quit my job without a plan, and well, here are my thoughts on that. Now, for many people who've never done this before, where they decide to quit their job without a plan, this could definitely be something that's very scary. There's a whole unknown factor, but at the same time, they feel this really deep emotion that they have to quit their job. And let me tell you, I've been there multiple times. There's been many times where I went through this myself. I quit my job without a plan, and I've done this more than one time. So I'm going to be giving you my experiences with this and my overall thoughts on it with somebody who's done it without a plan. But also I'm going to give you the other side of it as well. So let's go ahead and start off with the motivations of why somebody would want to quit their job without a plan. Now, at least for me, I just simply hated my job. I really didn't like what I was doing. I didn't like the environment. I just didn't really feel like I was doing anything with my life being at that job. And if anything, it actually made my life worse. I was unhappy. I always had this horrible feeling in the pit of my stomach. And whenever I had to do my daily commute, which was basically an hour 30 minutes to work and an hour 30 minutes back to work, and then if there were car wrecks or accidents, I would be in my car even longer. So just a minimum over 3 hours every day going back and forth. And I had to work a lot of hours. So my normal hours were anywhere from 50 to sometimes 60 or 70 hours, depending on what was needed. And the career path that I was on at the beginning was in the whole information technology field. And there were quite a few times where I had to be available 24 hours a day because we had production systems that we had to manage. And all of those things just culminated year after year, and I was absolutely miserable. And so for a lot of people, I think they can relate with this. And this is probably one of the main reasons, all of these things that I've just mentioned, why somebody would want to quit their job without a plan at all, because they just can't take it anymore. And by this point, I was ready to absolutely quit my job. But this is where reality came in, because as with most people, their job is their primary way to make a living and survive. And in this case, I was making pretty good money as well, so it made it even harder. And so not only did I have this whole emotional, mental, and even physical issues with the job that I was at, now I also had to have this whole nother area of fear and the unknown that I've never experienced before, especially being in this position that really took me a lot of years to get to. But despite all that, I decided to go ahead and quit my job without a plan. Now, this is where I think a lot of people might be wondering what happens next if they've never done this before. Now, if you spend a lot of time watching videos on YouTube where people talk about this, it might seem very romantic. Everything's going to be great, and you could finally get rid of that job. But let me tell you what really happens to most people. Starting with the first and most important thing, well, money. I didn't have a job, so I didn't have any more income coming in. And at this point, I still had expenses like everybody else. You know, I had to pay for my car, my house, my bills, my living costs. I had loans, debt, credit cards. All of those things were still there. And because I decided to just quit without a plan, well, this really hit hard because I started having all types of problems. Everything from debt collectors, late payments, losing things that I did not expect to lose, nearly losing my house. All of those things happened, and it was so scary. So even though I really felt so much better after quitting this job, everything else that followed was pretty much a nightmare. For professional virtual business locations, check out Anytime Mailbox with more than 1,300 locations worldwide at affordable rates. For more information, check out the affiliate link in the description area below. And another unexpected thing that came out of this was the sheer lack of support. Lack of support from your family, your friends, and even strangers, because now you are an unemployed adult who willingly quit a good paying job after going through many years of college. And the one that hurt me the most was actually my family, my parents, because They spent so much time and money to sacrifice so many things so that I could actually go to school, get a college degree, and get a good paying job. And then on the other end, with my friends and stuff, they were still employed. And so I couldn't do a lot of the same things. And then when I found out that I was unemployed, well, let's just say I lost some friends there as well. And then for people who are strangers, they're not going to really think highly of somebody who is unemployed with all those things going on for them. So that part was really a huge emotional negative to me. And it's something that I really haven't quite recovered from all these years later. And even though the lack of support on my decision to quit my job was something that really hurt me, it's something that I also understood as well, because they didn't really want me to lose everything that I had, be completely broke and homeless. So I do understand that most of this was out of concern. And I think for most people, they don't want to support a decision that might hurt the other person. And so I do want to put that out there. And then finally, because of all these things, I actually felt really negative in myself. I really felt like I made the wrong decision, a lot of regret, and even more stress. And so I think this is the cycle that most people go through, where it first starts off with money, then your family, friends, and other people around you, and then yourself. Because at this point, my confidence, my whole mentality, everything was just really down in the dumps, and I was ready to go back to any job. So because I decided to take this route of quitting my job without any plans at all, it did lead to many other things that I would have never have expected or planned for. And in the end, I'm actually really happy that these things happened, because it taught me a number of things. The first thing it taught me was to be very creative in the way that I approach how to make a living. Because in this case, I actually had to figure out other ways to make a living besides the type of job that I had before. So in this case, I tried many other different jobs. I tried contracting, and eventually it led me to more entrepreneurial stuff. I did freelancing, I was more self-employed, and I got other jobs as well in completely different fields. And so all of these things together actually made me happier with what I was doing. And then at the same time, all those problems that I had before, I didn't really have anymore over time, because now I actually made more money than I've ever made at any job that I had. The type of work that I'm doing is way better. I really enjoy what I'm doing. And then the people that I have around me, it's really people who care and support the things that I do, including my family and close friends. And with all of that being said, do I recommend that people quit their jobs without a plan? Well, I would say for most people out there, no. Especially if you have kids, you have a family, this is something that should definitely be thought about and planned, especially when it comes to money. Because the reality is, even though I did have a better life going through these experiences, it took me many, many years, and I also didn't have a family and kids to take care of. And so that's really the big thing that I want to point out here. I understand why you want to quit your job without a plan, and most of it is driven by emotion, which affects many other things. But then you have to deal with the reality side of it as well. So knowing what I know now, what are some of my thoughts on quitting your job with a plan? And so the first and most important thing that you need to do when you decide to quit your job is actually look at your money and finances. And in very simple general terms, look at how much it costs you to live every single month with all your expenses. And then you could go ahead and multiply that by how many months you think you need to get another job, another type of career, or start a business or a side gig, whatever the case might be. You need to figure that out. So say, for example, you maybe could give yourself like 3 months to actually figure something else out. Then go ahead and set aside 3 months worth of savings to cover all your daily living expenses. And secondly, I really think it's important for you to take some time to think about what else that you want to do. If it's not going to be another job in a different field, it might be a business that you've been thinking about, or maybe you want to do some side gig projects or freelancing or to be self-employed. So all of those things are really important because it gives you a direction to go towards. Now, if you don't know of where you want to go, this is why the whole idea of having savings for a certain number of months is really important. So as example, I used 3 months for you to kind of figure out where you want to go. So once you have these other two things in place, I would say this step might be the most important for some people, and that is communicating your plans with the people that you love and care about the most. especially if you have a family, you have children, or maybe you're taking care of other family members like your parents. Because I would say the last thing you want to do is make a sudden decision that negatively hurts your families and your relationships for the long term. And now, the final big step is actually taking action to quit your job with a plan towards something bigger, better, and hopefully happier than what you had before. So those are my thoughts on quitting your job without a plan and also quitting your job with a plan. If you actually had any thoughts on this, be sure to leave that in the comments area below. And if you did want to see more of my money videos, I do have an entire playlist. I'll leave that in the description area as well. So as always, if you did get value out of these videos, be sure to share, like, and subscribe. And I'll see you on another episode.